All right, so the topic of this unit is taxonomy, and probably most of you are not familiar with what that is. So taxonomy is a science. It is the science of how we classify and group living organisms into different categories. So you are familiar with taxonomy somewhat, in that maybe you know that there's several kingdoms that living things can be placed in. You know that?
Yeah.
Like, what is one of the kingdoms? The animal kingdom.
Humans.
No, they're animals. The plant kingdom. So most people can name those two.
Bacteria kingdom.
Bacteria are one.
That's a thing?
Yeah. Those are animals.
Water.
No, that's not alive. There's also fungi, and there's protists, and there's archaea, which is probably. Well, we'll talk about each of those kingdoms this next week, probably. All right, so let's start by talking. All right, guys, listen, please. So we'll start with just some general information about the science of taxonomy and what it means and some general things. And then we're going to start to get into, okay, what are the groups that scientists use to categorize living things? What determines what organisms are in each group, and talk about some examples. So taxonomy, as I said, is the science of classifying or grouping living things. And so putting organisms into different groups or categories helps to sort of make sense of the living world. Helps us to understand why two living species might be similar, why they might be different, how they're related, how they evolved, those sorts of things. And so scientists humans always have classified things, grouped things, to help make sense of them. The science of taxonomy has been around for a long time. One of the individuals, the scientist that we associate most with taxonomy is this gentleman. Okay, his actual name was Carl von Linné, but he actually changed his name to Carolus Linnaeus because it sounded more Latin.
It sounds like a science.
He was a big fan of Latin, the Latin language. We sometimes might call him the father of taxonomy because he sort of came up with the system that we really still use today to categorize and classify living organisms. Linnaeus came up with a system of what we call binomial nomenclature. That's a mouthful. Binomial nomenclature. What does the prefix bi mean? Two. Like a bicycle. That means two wheels, yeah. So bi means two. Nomial means it has to do with a name. So a two name. And again, that root nomen again, it's a system of naming things. So Linnaeus came up with this system in which every living species that's been identified by scientists gets a unique name that has two parts to it, two words to it. I was giving you some scientific names earlier of some of those trees. Betula papyrifera, Pinus strobus, Acer siccara. Those are scientific names of some trees. And every species has a name like that. We just went over a name for humans, Homo sapiens. That's our scientific name for our species. And so they all sound a little strange probably to us because most of the time the words are Latin or Latinized versions of words. And so what do you know about Latin? Where do people speak Latin today? Nowhere. Latin is not a language that is currently used by people in their daily lives. Okay? It's what's called a dead language. And there's a benefit to that. In a language that's used currently, new words are constantly sort of come into play. The meaning of words changes over time. Words fall out of usage. So modern languages that people actually use are very fluid and they change. Whereas Latin is sort of a set language. It doesn't change. And so that's one of the reasons. The other reason is because scientists study sugar maple trees all around the world. Acer saccharum is a sugar maple tree. But we call it a sugar maple in English. But somebody speaking in Arabic or Chinese or Italian, they would have a completely different word for the same tree. So by scientists agreeing to use a common language of Latin, they can be sure they're talking about the same organism. Scientists all over the world sort of can understand and can utilize these names. That's on Joe's line, not all that. They quite roll off the tongue. You say tomato, I say solanum like a person. You say potato, I say solanum, two persons.
That's funny how you say tomato.
So if you look at these, however, so this is the scientific name, the binomial name of a tomato, and this is the binomial name of a potato. Do you notice anything about them? Danielle?
They're red.
Well, about their names, about their scientific names.
Potato is not red.
Mitchell?
The first part of their name is the same.
Yeah, what do you think that means about them? So they're both start with the name Solanum. That actually tells us something, Caitlin.
They're from the same kingdom.
Okay, you're on the right track. They are related to each other. They're actually very closely related, potatoes and tomatoes. They come from the Solanaceae family of our genus of plants. Well, so do eggplant, and so do a bunch of other vegetables. All right, so also, scientific names are helpful because sometimes the names we give things in our everyday language, like English, are kind of misleading. Like, what is that?
Jellyfish.
Is it a fish?
No.
Does it taste delicious on toast?
Yes. No.
Doubtful.
Yeah.
So calling it a jellyfish is a bit misleading. Okay? What's that? Okay, is it a horse?
No.
What is it?
It's
It's a fish.
Ringworm. Oh, I love
Ringworm.
I don't even see anything. Because it's
That's ringworm.
when they suck on you like that.
What is ringworm?
It's a rash.
It's not a worm. It is a fungal infection. It's a fungus. It forms a ring on your skin. It's a skin infection. But it's not an actual worm.
Starfish.
Is it a fish?
No.
Is it a burning ball of hydrogen?
No.
No.
Well, but technically, perhaps.
So, calling it a starfish.
But it's in a star, okay?
No one's thinking about like the
Stars are the
scientific
shape.
reason for stars.
All right.
No.
So that's why sometimes these scientific names can be more useful. Roadrunner. Are these cartoons still on? Roadrunner, Coyote? Okay. All right, so if you've never seen this cartoon, who's this? Well, he has a name. Wile E. Coyote. This is Roadrunner. If you ever get a chance to watch one of these episodes, it's on TV or something, at the very beginning of the episode, the intro, they're like chasing, so the coyote's always chasing Roadrunner, but he never catches. I'm sorry, spoiler. But, so coyote's chasing the Roadrunner, and then they freeze frame it, and they give you a scientific name below them. But they're fake names. They're sort of like comical. They're funny. For example, sometimes they call it Accelerati incredibus or Edius birdius. Those aren't the actual scientific names because these are real animals. A coyote is a real animal. A roadrunner is a real bird. The actual scientific name for a coyote is Canis latrans, The actual scientific name for a roadrunner is Geococcus californis.
That's not it.
So, what, Jake?
Coyote's actually faster than
Yeah. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So those are some examples.
Looks like so
So
upside down.
you guys we've already talked about one of these groups. I asked you about kingdoms, and you have a few of the kingdoms. So when we classify things, we can put them in different categories, starting with very general, very broad categories. Like kingdom is really general, right? Like we're in the animal kingdom, but so is a worm, and so is a spider and a fish. So those things, we do have some things in common, but it's still very general. But as we move down the taxonomic groups, we get more and more specific. And the organisms that share that group are more and more closely related. So the biggest group here is one you probably have never heard of. It's called domain. Every single organism in the world is in one of 3 domains. There's only 3. We're in the same domain as a maple tree and a mushroom.
We both all have
So obviously, this is a very general, very broad category. We'll talk about them. Okay, it's archaea, bacteria, and eukarya. Kingdom, that's the next level down. Again, still very broad. There's actually 6 kingdoms of living things.
Name them.
So we are in the same kingdom as a worm, but we're not in the same kingdom as a maple tree. So kingdom is a group that's a little bit more specific. As we go down, we get more and more specific. So after kingdom comes phylum. Then class.
How many are phylum?
So we're in the same phylum as all vertebrates. So a monkey or a dog or a squirrel, a human, they're all in the same phylum. Class. I'll show you another example of this. Order, family, genus, and then the most specific is species. We are in the same species as, no, just us. We're the only members of our species.
So what? There's like thousands upon thousands.
Humans are the only
Yeah, there's
species that
millions of species.
Yeah, bears, dogs.
And not just bears, it's specific types of it. It's grizzly bears, polar bears, brown bears, black bears. Each of them are their own individual species. So as we work through these groups, the relatedness of organisms in that category increases, and the number of organisms in each category decreases over time. And when I tell you the sugar maple tree in the courtyard is Acer saccharum, the 2 parts of the scientific name are the genus and the species of that. So Acer is the genus that the sugar maple tree belongs in, and its species is saccharum. Here's something else to help you sort of visualize these groups.
Yes.
Starting with kingdom, one of the broadest groups, the most general. So all of these organisms, grizzly bear, brown bear, black bear, panda, fox, squirrel, coral snake, and a sea star, a starfish, they're all in the animal kingdom. If I go down another level to a phylum, in the chordate phylum, phylum chordata,
What does that mean?
that is all the animals with basically a backbone or a spinal cord. So now, all of these are in the phylum chordata. What's been eliminated? Yeah, the starfish, the invertebrates, they're in separate categories. All right, so we move down another level into class mammalia. What are these? Yeah, mammals. So what's out? Yeah, the coral snake. So as you notice, as we go down these taxonomic groups, things are becoming more and more similar to each other. Order, carnivora. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's technically not carnivores. It has to do with their teeth, but yeah. So the squirrel, it's a rodent, so it's out. Family Ursidae. Those are bears. That's the family of bears. Do you know the technical name for the Big Dipper?
Ursa Major.
Yeah, Ursa. It's the big bear. Ursa. Yeah, Ursa.
Yeah, there's two of them.
That root means bear.
There's two Ursa.
Yeah. Ursa Major, Ursa Minor.
No, I mean it says Ursa Day.
Oh, Ursidae, yes. Genus.
Genius.
Genus Ursa. So what does this mean about the panda and the other bears?
Oh, these ones eat other animals.
No. What about the genes?
They're
Which?
different.
They? So tell me about how the polar bear, I mean the panda bear and the grizzly and the black bear, how are they, tell me something about their relationship.
What they're
What?
Panda bear eat bamboo.
Okay, but what is it? Yes, you're right. But what does the classification tell us? What?
They're all bears.
They are, but what about the grizzly and the black bear?
They're more bears.
They're more what?
Bear.
Not more bear. Yes, they are more closely related to each other than they are to the polar bear. I mean to the panda bear. Keep saying.
They live in the same place with the panda
So,
bear,
yeah.
somewhere else. They're more
So these, both the black bear and the grizzly bear, are in the same genus, the genus Ursus. So they're very similar to each other. Obviously there are differences because they are different species. And so finally, once we get down to the species level, we're left with just one type of living thing. Ursus arctos is the scientific name for the grizzly bear.
Why is the grizzly bear better than the black bear?
Why is it what?
Like further down than the black.
It's just because that's the one we chose to follow all the way through. It's, you know. All right, Olympia?
But it's an art genus thing.
Nobody. No other organisms. We're the only members of our species and genus, okay, and family.
Someone sees that animal kingdom.
What? Yes. All right, Olivia?
Was the domain too big? Like,
Yeah, so domain, we just, so oftentimes, we will watch this video in a minute. Oftentimes, we will, you might see domain excluded in like videos or notes or worksheets. And I'll talk more about why as we get to that. All right, so you are going to have to memorize the groups from domain down to species. So I have a couple helpful ways, a couple sentences. Okay, one sentence that's like a classic, and people have been learning this one for like 50 years. And it's not all that memorable. I have a different one that might be more helpful. Dear King Philip came over for great soup. Some people say spaghetti. So that stands for each level of classification: domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Another sentence that's not quite so, not all that nice, but it might be more memorable. Dumb kids play catch on freeway, go splat.
I like that one.
Yeah.
newspaper headline.
So that's not all that nice.
Wait, keep it up there and copy this down.
Everyone wants to copy that one.
Oh,
I also have a song
no.
that will help you to remember, but I'll play it after we finish
No.
these notes.
Go play.
Press
I should write that down. I should write that down.
All right, so let's see if you remember any of them.
No.
So dumb, D. Raise your hand and tell me what's our top level group, Layla? Domain. Next group. Faith. Kingdom. P. Phylum. Helen. Class. The O. Don't look. Order. Sage. Yes. Mitchell? The G? Think about me and it probably will help you.
Genius.
Yes, it's not genius, but it's close. It's
Genus.
genus.
I have a
Genus.
friend named Genus.
So just remember me for that one. And the final category? Species. Let's look at where humans fit in here. Our domain is eukaryote.
Why?
Do we need to know this stuff too?
Yeah. Well, maybe. I'm not
Wait,
sure.
I never wrote this.
Okay, now what kingdom are we in?
Animal.
Animal kingdom.
Wait.
We are vertebrates.
Mammal.
Not yet. We are vertebrates. That is called the chordate phylum. Spinal cord. You have a dorsal spinal
I
cord.
don't. I hate it.
How about class?
That sounds mammals?
Yes, mammals. We are mammals. Order? Primates. If you go to the zoo and you go to the primate house, what do you see there?
Monkey.
Yeah, monkeys and apes.
Late monkey.
And family. You won't know these. Family is hominidae. We are the only members of that family right now on Earth. Genus, Homo. Species, sapiens. Then that gives us our scientific name, Homo sapiens.
Just homo?
Homo. Wait, do we start with genus and homo species and that gives them?
Yeah, that's the scientific name, comes from the genus and then the species. Homo sapiens. It's just one of the taxonomic groups. All right, so let me show this video. It might help these taxonomic groups sink in a little bit. Sophia, you have a question first? Go ahead. Guys. Yes. The ones on the right are what genus humans and what order humans are in. Exactly. All right, let me... we already talked about all three of these bears, the panda, polar bear, grizzly bear. And you see there their scientific names. So there are a couple rules that we follow when we write a scientific name. Okay? First off, they are the genus and the species name. We only capitalize the genus. The species name is lowercaseified. Yeah. Yeah. You got a problem with that?
Why not just say lowercase?
Because it's my word, I invented it. And if you use it, you get charged 25 cents per use because I copyrighted it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Lowercaseified.
Lowercase 5.
See, the YouTube's keeping track. You're going to get a bill. Keep using it.
Lowercase 5.
All right. I have another word I also invented. Also, because they are Latin words, we underline them. Or if we're using a computer, we italicize them. That's a real word.
Still underline on computer.
You could. If you read like in a scientific article, you'll always see that they're in italics. Because words in other languages are typically italicized.
How do you spell
Capitalized?
Lowercase 5. Never mind, I got it.
25 cents, man.
What does the bottle say?
No, 25 cents.
I'll give you
Hey, go for it. I don't.
Lowercase 5.
The other word I made up is aquadynamic.
Aquadynamic.
It's like aerodynamic,
Aquadynamic.
but in the water. Like a dolphin has a very aquadynamic shape.
What about isn't that like a real word?
That's my real word.
Aquadynamic. Why is only one of the words under the right?
That's just showing you, because they're in italics already. This is showing you which two are closely related. Ursus maritimus and Ursus arctos.
Lowercase